won't get too far into that. We got some losers to talk about here as well, too. And not in a negative way, just teams that walked away from the draft not as good as these other teams. We won't call them losers because no matter what, you're adding players to your team. So who are
we're calling them losers.
All right. So who is your draft day loser who technically isn't a loser, but is kind of a loser?
All right. Let me. Yeah. Okay. All right. So number one, we're gonna go with the San Francisco 49ers. I just don't like really anything they did. Their second pick was the Michigan kicker, Jake Moody. What? Maybe their best pick might be Ronnie Bell at 253. I don't like Jair Brown at 87 overall. I don't like Cameron Latu at 101. South Alabama's corner, Darrell Luter, not a bad pick, but not great either. TCU's linebacker D Winters, I think he was underrated in the scouting process, but I also probably think you could have got him at your 247 pick and not 216. I just, there's everything the Niners did. It just kind of seems like they reached on a lot of things. And then also just, it really was kind of a cluster. Like, why are you taking a kicker with your second pick? Why? There are plenty of kickers in the free agent market. There are all the kickers in the world that'll be rookies that are undrafted. Like, you could have brought in 7 kickers to have a tryout for during offseason workouts. And you probably find a better kicker than what Jake Moody will end up being. Because I'm sorry, but he is not McPherson. He is not any of the kickers we've seen drafted in the last 10 years, 20 years. So, like, I don't like this. I don't like what the Niners did at all.
Yeah, that was kind of a tough one as well, too, because when I look at it, I'm like, I know you don't have a lot of picks, and that's kind of not what you're there for, but if you're going to take a kicker, it better be like Evan McPherson or something like that. You probably could have taken another player to play special teams or something like that, or a flyer on one of these quarterbacks, since Lord knows what's going to happen with your quarterback position this year. Like, it's they did not have a very strong draft. They didn't have a lot to work with, but they did not make the most of it, if that makes sense either. So I'd agree with that. They had a very questionable draft. And looking at mine, I kind of want to say the Lions because of taking Jahmyr Gibbs so high and Jack Campbell. But Dan Bryant Branch in the second round's a hit. Like, it almost just bounces out. Just swap them for me and you're good at that point. Kind of want to go with the Jets, but at the same time, Pittman in the second round fits your need. And Will McDonald, we have no idea. So I wish they had taken Nolan Smith. I digress. So I'm going to take one that's going to kick you right in the nuts. And I'm going to say the Dallas Cowboys were kind of a draft loser. I like Nolan Smith. He was in my top 50. But I don't think that's the pick to make there. That felt like a panic pick because your boy Dalton Kincaid was already gone. That's what it kind of felt like, is the Bills stolen from you and you panicked and took Mozzie Smith, who really good player, fits a need, will eat up blockers, help stop the run. You're moving Micah Parsons to full-time defensive end, which you kind of knew, you had to have known that going in. So what I would have liked them to do is to grab, if you weren't going to get that tight end, I want to see you grab an edge to play opposite him as well. Because DeMarcus Lawrence is fine, but he's getting older. Like, you have a lot of rotation. Nolan Smith was right there, who comps to Micah Parsons, who in our big board, that was my comp for. Can you imagine having those two on the outside in a division with Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones, mobile running quarterbacks? Good luck getting the edge on those two.
I won't have to imagine it next year because I'll get to watch the Philadelphia Bulldogs with him on the outside.
Well, that's fine. I'm saying imagine him and then Micah Parsons. Granted, him and Hassan Reddick is not too far behind, but him and Micah Parsons, good luck. And I think you could have got Mozzie Smith or one of those D tackles in round 2. Like, I like Mozzie Smith. It's a good player. He's honestly the one pick that I kind of liked. I just think there were better options at the time. Then I looked around 2. You took Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end out of Michigan. I know you needed a tight end. I know Dalton Kincaid was your guy. I would have preferred you've taken Michael Mayer in the first round over Luke Schoonmaker. He's an all right tight end, but he's not any different than Peyton Hendershot or Ferguson as well, too. Feels like that was just a positional fill. And late round 2, there's good players there. Like, you could have taken Josh Downs there. You could still use receiver help. I know you brought in Brandon Cooks, but put him, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, and like, there's a lot of ways to go. You need another running back, technically, which they did get with Deuce Vaughn later on, which I did like that pick, not just because of the fun, heartfelt part of it, but that's a good player they got. You could have grabbed another run. You could have grabbed more defensive secondary help as well, too. I know you brought in Stephon Gilmore to go with Trayvon Diggs. A third corner is not going to hurt. There's a lot of options there, and I don't like – honestly, Mozzie Smith was fine. I would have preferred him in the second round. It's kind of everything else after that. I was left a little bit like, just kind of scratching my head. Like, Faco from San Jose State, not bad. Assam Richards from North Carolina, not bad. Eric Scott, not bad. DeMarvion O'Shawn from Texas, not bad. But if there was more left on the board that they could have worked with, and I felt like they could have done a little bit better, which teams have said that before. Like when they took Travis Frederick, they were saying, why'd you take a center? those who didn't know, now they know. But I think this one doesn't quite add to that. I think Cowboys had an okay draft, but they definitely, when you look at what the Eagles did, when you look at what the Giants did, and when you look at what the Washington maybe not as much, but mostly the Eagles, when you look at what they did, I think the Cowboys definitely missed an opportunity to make a significant improvement.
Yes. All of the above, yes. And that's the problem is you just look at the draft and you're like, oh, okay. Like
That being said, they had
none.
a knockout free agency, I should say, too, with the trades they had, like getting Cooks
Yes.
and Stephon Gilmore. So I won't completely shit on the Cowboys. That's your job here. But I will say the draft, when your biggest competition is your in-division rival Eagles, they came up a little short by comparison.
When you watched a team who had drafted last year, their 22 starting offensive and defensive players had drafted 20 of their 22 starters. And then you just watch them have a draft like they just had, and you're just looking at your team like, huh, what can we do to be better? Maybe we're gonna just draft, I don't know, random guys. That's because that's what it feels like. I mean, I feel like you're exactly right, and I said this the other day, and I stand by it. As soon as Dalton Kincaid got taken off the board by the Bills, it was just like panic mode. Everybody hit the panic button in that freaking Death Star of a war room. And they were just like, oh, God, oh, what do we do? Let's our second round pick. Let's just get him right here. Mozzie Smith. That's our guy. No, that should never be the case. Like,
really good player, not the best for that spot.
yeah, like you're exactly right. I would have taken Michael Mayer in the first round at that point in time. Like, boom, okay. Like, you already know what to do with a guy who can barely run and turn around and get to the sticks and block somebody off. Dak threw to him really well. He came out of retirement to come back and play for you, and he did well.
Trade back if you don't like that spot, because you could have got both of those guys. Teams were trying to trade up in round one for Will Levis. You could have slipped back and had more time to think about it. You were already picking 26, whatever it was at that point. You're not going that far back.
No, not at all. So I'll just add one more team that I had a loser, though. I'm going to go to the Chargers. I don't think they had a great draft at all. There's a whole lot of TCU on this board. I don't mind Quentin Johnson. I don't mind Darius Davis. Max Dugan, with their 239, I'm like, oh, why? All right, I guess, whatever. Clemson's offensive tackle, Jordan McFadden, whatever. Don't really like it. Boise State's defensive tackle, Scott Matlock, probably could have gotten him in free agency. Tulu Tuipulotu, the USC linebacker, not even ranked in my top 10 linebackers. And yet he's going in as he was at the time, I believe, linebacker number 2, maybe 3 at the time. So yeah, don't really get that pick at all. That was my big
round 3 was a good spot for him.
Yeah, well, and then they take Dayan Henley, who was not even in my top 15 or 20 linebackers in the draft, when there were still top 5 linebackers available at that time. So I don't know again why you're going there in the 3rd round. So yeah, I get you need linebackers, but like get good linebackers. Don't get, I don't know what linebackers they got. I really don't. I don't know what they were going for, because they're undersized. They are fast, but they're undersized. So I don't know if you're just going for that dime nickel package type of speedsters. But you're gonna keep giving up gashing runs up the middle, which has been your problem if you're the Chargers. So why would you keep doing that? I don't know. So yeah, I just don't like the Chargers draft outside of Quentin Johnson and Darius Davis, to be honest.
Say, I love Quentin Johnson. I think that one was a home run for him. Just where they got him and what it brings to the offense. I didn't like Tui as that 2nd round pick, especially as a smaller edge guy too. Like, he's not. Your problem is your run defense. You got to learn how to stop running backs. He doesn't really help with that. Dayan Henley, I like him. He's a good linebacker prospect. I think if Houston would have got him, he'd be defensive rookie of the year with D'Amico Ryans coaching him. He doesn't help your run defense in the same way that you need, though, because you need somebody to keep blockers off of him. That's kind of my biggest thing, is they didn't get somebody to plug up those holes necessarily. And that's kind of where I'm like, Mozzie Smith was there in the 2nd round, so maybe the Cowboys screwed their draft up well in advance. Who knows? But I think they needed more run defensive type players, like 3 techs, 1 techs. They needed some girth on that. They needed to do what the Browns did, where they drafted more than 1,000 pounds in 3 straight players. They needed something like that. They should have grabbed DeJuan Jones and said, you're playing nose now. Go dunk on people. Since we know you can dunk a basketball, go dunk on them. That's what I think that would have, something like that. They needed some girth and size, and they didn't really get that outside of Quentin Johnson, ironically, who's now also their deep threat. So love Quentin Johnson. Darius Davis late was pretty good. Then between, I kind of agree with you. There's a little bit to be desired.
A lot of it to be desired.
Quite a bit to be desired. But I'm excited for Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore next. You have now Mike Williams on one side, Keenan on the slot, and now Quentin. They're going to have to score 40 because they're only going to get 4 possessions a game, so they have to score on each one of them because the other team's going to run the clock down. But I like their chances to actually score, and praise the Lord, we get to see Justin Herbert uncork that cannon a couple of times a game. Now, if there's somebody who runs above a 5-second 40 out there on the outside besides Mike Williams.
So I was about to say, at least that will be on the field since Mike Williams will be injured.
Exactly. I love Keenan Allen, but he's not really burning people these days as well, too. Mike Williams really isn't burning people either. He's just down there and dunking on them. But now
and more importantly, can catch the ball when they're down there. Because there's Jordan Palmer who can run that fast, but he just can't catch the ball.
And he doesn't quite. And I like Quentin Johnson because now if he's Justin Herbert has the ability of, all right, Reeves 1, 2, and 3 are open. All right, Quentin Johnson's out there somewhere, and he doesn't have to just try and throw a perfect back shoulder fade or throw an alley-oop. He can just let it fly, and maybe Quentin Johnson will run underneath it too. And we saw a little bit of in person. He can roll to the right, throw a bomb back across left. Now we have somebody who can kind of run underneath it and score. And he can throw that drag route, and like he did against Michigan in the playoff game, take it 60 yards. So I think Johnson gives Justin Herbert a little bit of ease ability, and it's not just check down to Austin Eckler. I think it's going to open up their offense a bunch, which they're going to need because it looks like they're not stopping the run again. So they're going to have to score quick, fast, and in a hurry a lot this year, which, you know what, they might just do. But I agree with you. The middle of that draft, meh. Just very meh. It wasn't there.